Hi everybody, it's Christina from Card Making Magic. Today we're going to make a 5x7 card and we're going to turn it into a birthday card. We will add some flowers, but the flowers I'm going to create from some Foamiran, and all I've used is just a little heart die that I've got in my stash. So this is a set of little heart dies. I've used this one to create my petals and my colour scheme is going to be pink and white. So some of the other items you're going to need to make this card are obviously your Foamiran and your card. I've also got a piece of parchment, I have some stamens, I've got two oval dies that will create frames for me. Now to push the stamens through the Foamiran flowers you're going to need some wire. Now you're going to need something to colour your flowers and I'm just using small mini ink cubes. So let's make some Foamiran flowers. Take a small heart, it doesn't have to be a big one, it doesn't need to be too small, but just a medium sized one. Take your Foamiran and fold it in half, and then fold it in half again. Now this will depend on the size of die that you use, but that is just big enough to take my hearts. And I'm going to cut those out and that will give me 4 layers of hearts. Now to make my flower I'm going to need 3 lots of 4. So the next thing I'm going to do is take some pink ink and I'm just going to go over the top edges and the centre parts of the flower. And I'm going to do the same on both sides. Now it's very subtle, it's a very pale shade of pink, but it just gives that little bit of shading to the hearts, as you can see. Now for each flower you're going to need 4 petals, and what you're going to do is glue those together just on the points. So I'm hot gluing them because I don't want them to fall apart, so I'm just going to put some glue onto this point and add one of the other pieces. And then I'm going to repeat the process onto that one. And I'm going to do exactly the same. Now the hot glue is hot, so please be careful when you're using hot glue. And the last one will go there. And this is what you will have then for your petals. So you'll need to pop that on one side and let that settle. So once you have all your layers made and your iron is hot, pop your Foamiran onto the iron and you're only going to push the petals onto it. Try not to push the centre on, and once it comes off the iron it is warm, it's not too hot. Scrunch it all together and then leave it on one side to cool. Don't open them up, just leave them on one side to cool. Now the iron is hot, so please be careful. And again we'll scrunch these together and then we'll leave it to cool. So once they've cooled down you can open them up very carefully. And make sure you don't split them, just open them up a little bit. And you need 3 layers for each flower. So for the next part you're going to need some stamens, some fine wire, and I've got a mat and a pokey tool. And I'm going to colour the stamens first of all so that they will sit inside my flower. So I'm levelling these stamens up and I'm going to put probably 6 in each flower, because once these are doubled up you will then have 12 stamens inside your flower. So we'll try and get all those top parts level. So there's my 6 stamens. Now I'm going to take a little finger dauber and it's already got some yellow ink on it. So I'm just going to go over the end of the stamens, and I'm going to do both sides. Now once I've done that, I need a little piece of wire, so we'll say about 1.5 inches, and I'm going to fold those stamens over, and I'm going to thread my wire through the centre. And then once I've got that in there, I can twist that wire, and that will keep all those stamens together. Now this wire's not going to stay on there, it's just to poke it through the flowers. So once we've done that, now we can take each of the flowers and our pokey tool, and we can poke a hole right the way through the middle of all those petals, and we'll do 3 layers to each flower. Now you will very gently need to ease those stamens through that hole so that you don't rip the flower. And once you've got them into the centre there, you can push this now through the next one. So once you have your flowers made, let's go ahead now and create the card to add the flowers to. Now I'm only going to use one of the flowers, but I do want some leaves to go with this flower. So for some green Foamiran, I've just folded it into 4, and once I've cut that, that will give me 4 leaves. So we can just take some little bits out of the side, and that will put some shape into that leaf. We'll do the same on the other side. So you're being careful not to cut too far down. And there we've got 4 little petals that will all sit with the flower. So I've created my card base from the 5x7 card and box kit. I've got a top folded card. I've created a spotty layer that's going to sit on there, and another white layer that will sit on there. But on top of this I want a frame. So I'm going to take it from the spotty layer. So I've got my 2 oval dies, one is slightly smaller than the other. I'm going to add those to my card and run that through my die cutting machine. So there's my frame cut from these dies, but I want several frames to stack together to give a better effect. So I'm keeping these together, and I'm going to add these to some white card, and I'm going to run that through, which will give me a frame that's exactly the same size as this, and then I'm going to repeat this on the rest of the white card to give me a nice deep frame. So there's all my frames cut. There's my patterned one for the top. Keep all these ovals, they will always come in handy for another project. And I've cut my happy birthday sentiment in black. Now from the largest of these dies, I'm going to cut a piece of the oval in parchment. And then with an embossing folder, I'm going to emboss that piece of parchment. And then once I've done that, I have a beautiful pattern on my parchment ready to add to my cards. So I'm going to stack 3 of my frames together, glue them together. I'm going to add my parchment, and then I'm going to add the other 2 glued together to the top. So there's my oval frame. That's the layer that will sit on the card. Once the other layer is added to the top, nobody will know that there's a gap in there, but I'm going to emboss this in the same folder. I've cut my sentiment 3 times in white, and they're going to get stacked together, and then on the top I'm going to add my black one. and that will be nice and sturdy then to add to my card. So now with everything ready, I'm going to put this card together. So I've added the black to the top of the white, and I've left just a little bit of a shadow from the side of the die, and that will just make that stand out a little bit more when I add that to the card. But that's nice and thick now and ready to be placed into the oval. So we've glued that down, and nobody will know that there's a hole in there once we added this. This I'm going to add with some foam tape. We'll add that and we'll leave just a small border around the edges, and then this we can glue into place along there. So we'll just add a little bit of wet glue to this. And because this is stacked, this is also raised from the card. Now I'm only adding in one of the flowers, so I'm going to put my happy birthday sentiment across there, and it will only be fastened on the edges. So that can sit along there, and then down at the bottom here we'll add the flower and we'll pop the leaves in around it. Now that I'm going to add with some hot glue because I don't want that to fall off once it's been given to the recipient, but obviously because of the depth in that flower you're going to need to make a box. Now I'm going to add some glue to the edges of this flower because I always like to add some sparkle to my petals. So I'm just going around the edges just with a little bit of glue, and then I'm just going to add some glitter to the edges of this petal, these petals. Tip off the excess and then leave that to dry. Now as it dries, the glue will dry clear and the glitter will lie flat. And now we're going to just add some pearls in there just to finish it off. So I have found in my stash a beautiful flourish. So I'm going to cut this up and add this to my card. So I think we'll add some down there and we'll add some over there. So there's the finished card. I've created it from the 5x7 box. I've added a happy birthday sentiment, and the flower has been made from Foamiran with just one little heart die. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please join me on the next one. And why not subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell, and you'll always be aware when I add a new video. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.